Alexis, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I'm super excited to chat with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited too.
Yeah, despite being a little late and this being about time management, but
You wouldn't be the first.
yes, this is what keeps you in business. I love it. Uh, right, Alexis Haselberger is a time management and productivity coach who helps people do more and stress less through coaching, workshops, and online courses. Her pragmatic, irreverent approach helps people easily integrate realistic strategies into their lives so that they can do more of what they want and less of what they don't. Alexis has taught thousands of individuals to take control of their time, and her clients include Google, Lyft, Workday, Capital One, Upwork, and more. Super, super cool. So, first and foremost, why did you take on this career path?
So I worked for the first part, 15 years of my career in early stage startups in the Bay Area, where there is always way more to do than people to do it. And
Mm,
I knew that I wanted to excel in my career, but I also never wanted to work more than 40 hours a week. Like I didn't want to
mm,
do what I saw other people doing, which was like burning out left and right, being in the office till 10, sleeping in the office sometimes, et cetera. And so I started developing and learning about processes that would work for me because it doesn't come easily to me.
right.
And I started, implementing this stuff. People started coming to me for it. And the last startup that I worked at went out of business. And at that startup, the CEO had asked me, "Hey, do you think you could like do some productivity training for everybody else based on the stuff you already do?" And I thought, "Ooh, that sounds like so much fun." Like never did I think anyone would ask me for
Hmm.
that, but that sounds amazing. And bing, bang, boom, here I am. And then, of course, I got diagnosed with ADHD after that all happened. And that made everything make so much more sense about why this was like, it's like we do the work we need in a
Right.
way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know where to start. So, like you, I was diagnosed with ADHD, though at a much younger age.
Hmm.
And I was prescribed with the strongest dose of possible Ritalin at the time.
Yeah.
I believe it was 90 milligrams of slow release Ritalin, and the side effects just didn't stop coming. Now, here's the thing, I do a whole lot in my day, and
Hmm.
you almost sound like mystical when you tell me how you can like organize your time and get things done. For me, it's kind of like effective chaos where I still get through my day. I brute force through all my tasks, and I'll get organized in these pocket areas so I can get through the process where I see organization as being crucial. But from a macro perspective, I can't say I'm super time management. I don't have a super. I don't have like I asked you, hey, confirm today's conversation. You're like,
Yeah.
yeah, Mike, it's in my schedule. I'm gonna be there, and I'm like, yeah, that just makes sense, you know. But
Right.
I still need to ask because not everyone
Yeah.
thinks like Alexis. So I mean, the value of what you do is tremendous, and getting there can almost seem impossible. So
Hmm.
if someone like myself who tries to be high functioning and tries to
Yeah.
stay efficient and optimize all the time and has found an environment in which he can thrive in, but
Yeah.
understands that there's so much more to gain from being better time managed, what would be the first piece of advice you'd give to someone like me?
Well, I think that one is like throw out all of the stupid productivity advice that you hear out there because I think that, I hate calling myself like a productivity and time management coach. I do it because that's what people search for. But
Right.
the reality is like I feel like I'm like a time satisfaction coach. Like my what I want to give people is the ability to identify the things that are really important to them,
Right.
make space for them, and build strategies around who they actually are and how their brains actually work. And that's different
Love it.
for everyone, right? So, like, I'm going to just give you an example of this. I am an inveterate night person. Waking up is the hardest thing that I have to do every single day. It has been the hardest thing that I have had to do since I was 5 years old and started school. I'm terrible at it. It's so hard. I'm sure my husband hates the like 15 alarms that I have going off. And I know this about myself. And so slowly over time, I have built my life so that I can get up later and later and later, right? Like I have teenagers now and I have trained them. They leave the house with breakfast in their bellies before my alarm goes off, right? And
Mm,
so it's about kind of noticing what works well for you and then figuring out strategies that are likely to be more sustainable because you're not fighting with yourself the whole time.
Yes. Yes. You weaponize your ADHD, make it work
Yes.
at your advantage. And I absolutely love that you brought the sleeping thing because in certain aspects of my life, I have complete discipline, complete control.
Yeah.
And I stopped fighting the sleep part. Midnight kicks in and my brain is on fire and I'm
Yeah.
excited and I'm motivated. And I just ride that wave. And I go to sleep 4 or 5 a.m. on an
Yeah.
average night. And it's not a great thing. I would love to be, because when I wake up at 6 a.m., I'm like, oh, this feels real. And I'm like so much
Yeah.
more motivated in the morning. But the truth is, I'm very motivated at night too.
Yeah.
And I could try to change that, but I've realized I'm not going to fight it. It's just who I am. I've tried to fight it for years and I just failed miserably.
Yeah.
And I just ride that wave. I do the best I can and I make the most out of who I am. And
Hmm.
you also mentioned something where you allow people to do what they do best. And I think that's absolutely crucial. And it's kind of one of those pillars where every day when I wake up in the morning, I really try to look myself in the mirror and ask myself, what is exceptionally unique about me and what can be patternized and delegated?
Hmm.
And this isn't like a one-time self-reflection. This is an iterative and a constant process.
Yeah.
And you have a really quick changing environment. Technology progresses, on Moore's law exponentially. And we're losing that predictive power. We're losing that ability to really just be as organized as we possibly can be and project 3, 4 years into the future. We go to college, we pick a degree, we assume it's going to be great when we're done. And we're in an environment where things are changing really fast. And stuff like COVID really do shift the landscape and they do shake us up. And, I talk about AI specifically because AI is really doing a great job at making us self-reflect more and be like,
Mm-hmm.
what is I coined the term uniqueness factor, right?
Mm-hmm.
What can't I delegate? I want
Yeah.
to be able to set up a system where I am hyper focused and doing the most of that. And yeah, like when you say time management to me, where I see the incredible value is like managing an internal team. That
Mm-hmm.
is an extremely complicated task where it looks easy in the beginning. And those inefficiencies you have in the beginning don't really matter. You can force yourself through them in the start, but then when you have 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 team members, everything collapses and everything becomes exponentially more complicated. It's akin to, in college, you take 3 courses, you're fine, and then you take 4 courses and you're like, oh shit, everything is 1,000 times harder.
Right. There's like a step level in terms of our processes, right? It's like for a certain amount of time, we can have this like it's organized chaos, but it's kind of working and et
Yes.
cetera. And then there's something that this also happens to people when, they're excelling at work, et cetera. And then like they have a baby and everything goes to crap,
Mm,
or they were doing pretty well as an IC and now they're a manager and it's like their old systems don't work anymore.
right. And, I can only imagine how valuable your insight can be. So I guess you go to like high functioning startups or, just unique work environments and it's not like a one-time service. I imagine your challenges that you're going to face or the challenges you have to solve are constantly changing as a person traverses through different stages in their career. Do I have that right?
Yeah, you have that right. I mean, I'm thinking about a client that I've been working with for, lots of clients that I work with. We put in some practice, we figure out what works for them. We put in some practices, I send them on their way and they're great. But I do have people that I have worked with through, so many life changes, right? Someone who I worked with, who was a manager at a startup, and then he left that startup and he went off on his own. And he's been, for the last couple of years, he's been trying to buy a business. And then he finally bought a business. And now he's managing this team where he is the head of that. And he's had a kid in between. And like, to me, that's so satisfying and fun because it's always changing, right? And we get to find like, I don't think of it as like, oh, these crushing challenges. I think of it as like, ooh, how do we rejigger things? How do we like change the system? How do we experiment? What can we try here so that we're, you know, continually improving based on the new reality that we're facing, whatever that is.
Right. So walk me through, you talk about hustle culture. Walk me through what hustle culture is.
Ugh,
And oh, it's a horrible question.
I hate, I,
And
I hate hustle culture.
so what is that? And
Yeah.
what are the problems that come with it that time management solves?
Yeah. So I think hustle culture to me is this idea that we should be doing more, better, faster all the time. It's kind of like puritanical productivity, right? That's like built into capitalism. It's kind of, and so it's basically this idea that that our worth is defined by our productivity. And I absolutely
Mm.
hate that because I feel like I think I'm different than a lot
I
of
feel like I'm a
people.
slave to that.
Yeah, it sucks, right?
And
Doesn't
it
feel good.
sucks. Well, I mean, it's addictive and
Yeah.
it's an addictive mindset and it comes at the expense of everything else.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, that's a lot of my clients that I end up working with, right? Are people that have attained a level of success that's quite impressive, but they've done it through brute force, right? And they're now
Mm.
looking around and they're like, oof, like I want to maintain my success, like that's important, but also like I want to have a personal life. I want to have hobbies. I want to see my kids. I want to exercise. Like I want to live a long time. And that is hard to do when you're solely focused on like productivity or hustle or getting to the next thing or, working all the time. Technology aids and abets all of this, right? Like it's harder to have boundaries when we can be available all of the time. But I like to think of it differently. So when I think about, time management, productivity, stress reduction, all of this stuff, I think about productivity as not like how much we can shove into any moment of time, but as in doing what I intended to do, which
Mm.
means that I have to have some foresight about what's important. I have to prioritize. I can't do everything.
Mm.
And most importantly, that means that if what I intend to do is go sit out in the hammock in my backyard with a book, that's also productive, right? If what I intend to do is relax, that's productive too.
Mm. Well, we aren't monotonic, static individuals, and as we grow in life, we change.
Hmm.
So you what you're saying is brilliant. You got to have a plan and you got to stick to it. And it's not about it's about the end game and it's about getting there in a healthy and effective manner. But how do you how do you navigate being constantly changing and evolving with staying true to your goals?
So I think you just said something that I think is kind of interesting. You said it's important to stick to the plan. I actually don't value sticking to the plan as much
Mm.
as someone might think. I think planning is really important. I think the act of planning is really important because it helps us more than anything else to decide what we're not going to do, what we're not going
Mm.
to focus on, right? And then the plan becomes really important because it helps you to evaluate new incoming items, right? There's always going to be stuff you didn't know about yesterday that has to be done today or that comes up.
Mm.
There's always going to be new things. And sometimes people get really frustrated. They say, well, I spent this time planning, but then other stuff come up and I didn't do the things I planned. And now I feel like I failed and it was totally useless. Why did I even plan at all? I think that regardless of whether we stick to the plan is important because it allows you to say, okay, this incoming item, this like loud squeaky wheel, is this more important or less important than the things I had already planned to do? If
Mm.
it's more important, it rightfully should be slotted in and your plan should change, right? If
Interesting.
you are moving forward and you gain new information that should change your plan, and yet you steadfastly stick to this plan that you had when you didn't have this new information, that to me is silly. But sometimes these squeaky wheels come in and you look at them and the person's loud and they want your attention, or maybe it's your own brain really loud and kind of making you go on this rabbit hole. But you can look at your plan and you can say, oh, is this thing more important or less important than what I'd already planned to do? You get to make a decision.
Mm. I love how you answer that. Um, so what are Alexis's biggest problems with time management?
This is funny. I was just talking to some people about this today. I think that for me, the thing that I am always working on, and I work with my clients on this as well, is just being overly optimistic. And you'll hear me talk about all the time, like how we have to be like ruthlessly realistic about what we can get done in any given time. And I'm pretty good at it most of the time through like hard work, but I'm always like, oh, it's going to take me a little bit less time, right, to do something than it really does. So I think there's that. And then I think there's also what I call like my squirrel brain, which may be my ADHD, which is that like I have 1 million ideas, right? Like I think of ideas that I want to pursue that I think are great ideas like 20 times a day. And reminding myself, like, put them in the back burner, right? Like, put them in the place, put them in the holding tank where I can evaluate them later instead of acting on them immediately. I think this is an area that I still struggle with on the daily and that I work at every day.
Right. And when you go into a company, do you normally work with individuals or do you work with like team solutions?
So I do this in a few different ways. So often, an executive or a senior manager or leader will come to me and they'll want to do one-on-one coaching. We'll do that together, and then often what will happen is they'll be like, "Oh, this was so effective for me. Now let's do some team coaching for my
Right.
team." And then sometimes I will do, I do a lot of corporate workshops. So people might come in and they're like, hey, we just want a workshop about how to make meetings more effective, or like how
Mm.
to use a task management tool, or, how to de-stress or whatever. And so I'll do that. And then sometimes a company will hire me to do something more intense and really come in and diagnose, like do listening sessions with staff and diagnose what's really going on here, and then
Right.
come to them with some recommendations about how we can solve some of the problems that they're having. And so it really kind of runs the gamut.
Love it. Alexis, what is your uniqueness factor? And there are a lot of people that do time management, coaching, and whatnot. Why do you think, what do you attribute to your success? And why do you think that you've found more success in this industry relative to your competitors?
So I think that there's a couple of things. So one of them is what we talked about already, which is that I am not assuming that there's a right way and it's going to work for you, right? I
Right.
am coming to every person with, hey, we're going to figure out what can we learn about you, and we're going to figure out the strategies that are going to work, and it's going to take some experimentation and some iteration to get there, and that's just part of the process.
Mm.
And on the other side of that, I come to every client with the goal of increasing their own self-compassion, because so many people that struggle with time management, productivity, et cetera, there is so much shame wrapped up in this. I can't even
Right.
count the number of times people have said to me, I'm 50 years old. I can't believe I don't know this yet, or I'm not doing this yet, or whatever. No matter what age they are, they're like, I feel ashamed. And my goal is to help people to recognize that, like, there's not a right way, right? There's figuring out what works for you, and that the more you can be self-compassionate, the more your brain will want to try the things. Like if we're beating ourselves up all the time, we just shut down.
Hmm. Love it. Now, if I were to put you in a time machine if I were to put you into the future 5 years from now, where do you see yourself?
I hate questions like this. Can I say
I know.
that?
Yeah,
I'm like
it's
not.
okay.
I'll answer. I don't know, because
Maybe in 5 years from now, you'll love questions like that.
who
Who
knows?
knows?
Yeah, maybe in 5 years. So the reason that I'm going to answer this question in a non-answering kind of way. So the reason I don't like these like 5-year plan types of
I
questions.
love that you hate that question.
Yeah.
I have to just say that.
Okay. Yeah, I hate it because what I've found in my life and my career is that I am happiest and most successful when I am following my interests and my whims. And I don't know what those are going to be until they show
Right.
up. And so I don't plan, like I plan weekly, I plan daily, but
Right.
I don't plan 5 years out, because I think that would
Well,
cut the joy out of it for me.
I mean, here's how I see it. Like, I have greater aspirations, and when I go 5 years ahead, it's almost like, I want to be an astronaut, right? Like
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
ambitious. They're ambitious. And what I find funny is because some of the things that I really, really wanted to become, or places that I wanted, or milestones I wanted to achieve, that almost seemed like, oh, that'd make me feel so good and happy and amazing. And I look back and I'm like, hey, I've ticked those off, and they feel great. I mean, I'm not
Yeah.
like, but I'm saying I've evolved where that's no longer impressive.
Hmm.
And yeah, I know it's a stupid, silly, cliche question, but at the same time, I would find it interesting that someone as organized and motivated like you, uh, gets, I wonder where that motivation is sourced when you don't have this like broader dream of like, oh my God, imagine I get there and I've got this awesome, beautiful house in the forest with glass walls, and I can get to do all the things I love. Like that kind of keeps me, I wonder like, hey, at least that makes me feel motivated.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that this comes back to a concept that I think about sometimes, which is that I think that a lot of times people over-index on the goal and under-index on the day-to-day experience. And so for
Mm.
me,
Yeah.
my goal is to feel good every day, doing stuff that I enjoy, being with people I love, participating in hobbies, eating good food, etc. My life and everyone's life is going to be a series of days, right? And what I've found for myself, at least, is that when I index on, did today feel good? Did I feel fulfilled? Did I feel
Mm.
satisfied? Did I feel useful? Did I enjoy my time? That adds up to a life that I really enjoy.
Yeah.
Whereas seeking out some goal in the future doesn't provide me that kind of long-standing happiness in the same way.
Got it. Got it. Now, when I was reading up on your bio, you worked for huge companies like Google, Lyft, Capital One.
Mhm.
Any memorable moments or obstacles that you overcame that made you realize, hey, what I'm doing is working, and hey, these methods that I implement are really are something that I can see myself doing for the rest of my life?
Well, so those aren't companies that I worked at as an employee. Those are companies that I worked as clients,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Of
And
course.
so, I mean, I think about I think if I look back to my first client, who was a Google engineer, right? And I remember feeling so incredibly satisfied when he told me, hey, the HR person came to me and she was like, hey, how come you're so good at keeping track of everything and managing your time so much better than all of the other directors, right? And he told her, oh, because I worked with Alexis, right? And I have strategies for this stuff. And like
Oh,
to me, that made me feel so good because I'm like, not only is this guy
it
feeling
should.
it internally, that people outside of him are seeing this huge difference between the way how he is operating in the world and how other people at his level are operating in the world.
Yeah, but I wonder. So, just help me understand this, because
Mhm.
it sounds like you're really good at what you do, but how do you portfolio your work? It must be just word of mouth, right? If somebody like Alexis is your girl, you want to hit her up for time management, because it's not like, hey, visit my website.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So a couple things. One, there is a lot of word of mouth, right? But
Yeah.
two, I happen to like I didn't know what SEO was when I started my business, but I happened to be pretty good at it by happenstance because I just started writing immediately. So I've been writing a blog post a week for I don't know 8 years and go on a
Oh
lot of
wow,
podcasts. I get quoted in a lot of publications and things like that. So there's a lot of backlinks. So you would be surprised how many people find me who just Googled.
that is surprising, because
Yeah.
I feel like if I'm gonna hire someone for something like this, like I'd want to have a personal connection, and I want to have like, yeah, I'm like, I don't want to feel like I'm wasting my time, and I feel a little neurotic in the things that I value, and I'm like, time management. I'm just gonna brute force my way through problems,
Yeah.
and unless someone goes, hey, Michael, Alexis is like really good. She turned my life around.
Yeah.
Then I'd be like, oh yeah, I might want to explore that. But
Yeah.
it's really cool that you kind of pick up new clients from just SEO alone. And for everyone listening out there, so if Alexis can do it, I mean, imagine everyone else must be doing it. But that's all really, really interesting. And Alexis, where can people find you?
So the best place is my website, which is alexishasselberger.com. I hope you'll put that in the show notes because no one can spell it.
I will.
But there you will also be able to find my podcast as well, which is called Do More, Stress Less. And so that's
Mm,
a great way to get a little bit more of me, but also, my website has all sorts of resources. You can sign up for a free consultation. You can, see what I got to offer if you're interested.
amazing. And I appreciate your time, your wisdom, your expertise. It's been an honest pleasure.
Yeah, you too. Thank you so much.
Yep. Okay. Where's my mouse? There it is. That was